Greetings everybody, welcome into the shop. This is of course Prop Live from the shop. I'm Bill Duran, prop maker extraordinaire. And today I'm working on a little pet project of mine. I've been working on it for a couple of weeks, on and off a little bit here and there. I'm making Rey's Blaster from the new Star Wars movie. Most of these pieces, well, all of these pieces are 3D printed because I figured this was a really good example and test case for me to flex my 3D modeling muscles and test out some different finishing techniques for 3D printing. So today I'm going to be doing that here on the live stream over at twitch.tv/punishedprops. These weekly live streams, of course, are brought to you guys from our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/punishedprops. It's because of you guys that we can do more and more of these prop and costume making video live streams and help share that knowledge with everyone. So thanks again, all of our patrons. You guys are great. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to do a quick breakdown of all of the pieces here, what I've done so far and what I plan on doing today. Oh, another quick thing too. Obviously, if you're watching, you should be obviously if you're watching live, you should follow us because then you'll get alerts for when we go live. But also this Friday, okay, this week in just a couple days, we're gonna stream live on Twitch here, and we're gonna do like a follow-a-thon, try and grab as many new followers as we can get. We're gonna have some friends on. We're probably gonna do some giveaways. It'll be in the evening here on the Pacific Coast, so mark your calendars. We're gonna be live streaming on Friday over here on Twitch. All right, this is what I've got so far for the pieces. Just FYI too, I plan on molding and casting all of these. So when I was modeling them for 3D printing, I was planning on printing them in a way that they could be molded and cast in a manner that made sense for the process I'm gonna do. So if I was gonna print this gun out and assemble it and paint it without molding, I would have done it a little bit differently. So here's a quick rundown of some of the parts that we've got. This piece here is the main sort of body part of the gun, and it's already been molded and cast. You can see this is my box of off-cast that I've got. Not off-cast, but misprints, I should say. Since I was 3D printing this thing, I went and tried a couple of different techniques, some different software. This was the original body piece that I made, and it's kind of tricky to see in the camera. Here, I'll swap it over. I did some finishing tests on there, but there's some little nubbins in there that were undesirable, some little artifacts from the printing process that I did not want. So we tried some different software and got a better product, and that was finished and molded and cast. So here's the mold that we made, and you can see the video for this we just put out on our YouTube channel, Punished Props, or youtube.com/punishedprops. Of course, you can see how we made this mold. But for the finishing and what I'll be doing today, so you guys buckle up, it's going to be a good time. All I did, or for this piece I should say, Brittany did the work on this one, was I used sandpaper. This is 220 grit sandpaper, and I sanded the 3D print, and then I sprayed it with filler primer. This is Duplicolor filler primer. I like this one an awful lot, and it's super duper handy. And for the fairly high detail print, all it took was a little bit of 220, and then some filler primer, and then some sanding, and then a couple layers of just normal primer and sanding to get it to a point that I was happy for molding. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of these. Thing to note about these pieces, they have these circles. Whoops, those circles there. Those are for screw heads to go. I've got, I don't think they're in here, but these screws on the prop are these little security torque screws, and I did not 3D print them because I can just buy those. And I bought a bunch of them, and then once this piece, where did I put that? Once this piece is to the point that I like, once it's been filled and primed and sanded a little bit, I'll put the actual screw heads in there, and then I'll mold and cast it. That saves me a lot of headache. boy, oh boy, oh boy. So this part here, on the gun handle, there's a little part that sticks on the back here that I 3D printed separately. I want to mold this separately and then put it in place here, and it actually goes like that. And there's a couple holes there for screws. I'll add those later. But on the side of it is a little knob that I 3D printed, this tiny little knob. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. It's like a hammer or something. The challenge with this knob is that it's got this texture on it, this knurled texture. And I 3D modeled it. I promise you, I spent like an hour, couldn't figure out how to do it. So I just sort of brute forced my way through it. But the detail was so minute that the 3D printer didn't capture it. So I'm like, maybe I'll just put it on there without the texture. It won't be super accurate, but whatever. Then I was going through all of these little bits here. I've got knobs and stuff. This is actually part of. I have these little chucks for holding a drill, right? Holding a drill bit. For holding really small drill bits, and you can drill them by hand, or you can put this in a drill press. Well, the end of it is this knurled bit, and I molded these because I wanted to use some extra silicone. So I ended up with a really tiny version of it. One of the smaller chucks has this little knurled knob on the end. Again, really hard to see on camera, but it's got this wonderful texture on it. And sure enough, it is really close to the diameter of this piece. So I'm going to take this molded piece and trim it and model it, cut a slot in it, cut a hole in it to match that, and it'll have the knurl on it. And then I can glue that to the side of this piece, and then I can mold that whole thing. So I'm pretty happy with like blundering my way into that solution, and I hope it's going to work out. So this guy here is getting to the point that I'm getting ready to prime it. Before I prime it, like I said, I'm going to drill some holes in there, but also I'm going to add a sprue to the bottom of it. I'll just take a piece of probably MDF or cinch or some other flat material and glue it to the bottom there in the profile shape of that, so that I have a little extra room. And when I'm making the mold, and when I'm pouring the pieces, that gives me a little room for air bubbles to come out. And then with each of those castings, like for example, I'll have this extra bit here that has to get trimmed off of each casting. But again, that gives room for bubbles to come out of the casting. So there you go. It's a sprue, you guys. All right, guys, I put a bunch of Bondo on the back side of this handle, and that will all get sanded down eventually. But I'm gonna let that cure now and put it way over there so I don't breathe all this in. So the Bondo is starting to cure. It's still a little tacky, but it's kind of pliable, and I can actually take a knife and trim off any of the extra, like that, anywhere it overlaps. You can actually do a fair bit of sculpting this way. And I like to do that before it fully cures because this keeps me from having to sand all of this stuff down once it has fully cured. So the end of this piece here has kind of got a little bit of an indent, and I want to sand it with the end of this dowel. So I'm going to glue some sandpaper to the end of this. I've got this sandpaper here, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on it, and then I'm going to spray a tiny bit of spray accelerant on the end of the dowel and push it down in place, and then hold it there until it's fully cured. Then I can trim with a nice sharp knife, trim away most of the sandpaper on the tip of the dowel. And what I have is a dowel with a little bit of sandpaper on the end of it so that I can go in and sand that surface. And just to show off, there it is like that. There's the dowel. It goes in there and you can sand it. All right, so there you go, guys. We made some pretty good progress on the live stream today, working on these pieces for Ray's Blaster. Did a lot of sanding. I have a lot more sanding still to do, but at this point what I'm gonna do is go off and use my filler primer and do a good pass on the parts that I've already sanded. I'm gonna glue a sprue on the bottom of them, just like we've done with this guy right here. Then I'm going to hit him with that filler primer and do even more sanding to get rid of some of this texture here. So I'm going to go do that. Thank you guys for hanging out on the stream. And come hang out next time over on twitch.tv/punishedprops. Right now we're going regularly at noon PST on Tuesdays. Of course, make sure you follow us on Twitch so you get updates when we go live. And like I said before, we're going to be doing a live stream extravaganza on Friday this week, sort of like a follower-a-thon. We'll have some friends over, we'll have some giveaways, we'll be just farting around and having a good time, and encouraging you guys to follow us on Twitch, where we will be doing more and more live streams. So thanks again for hanging out, and we will see you on Friday.